I want to make it very clear that the Constitution, this one has been imported into our Constitution, that it is the responsibility of the family and the state to take care and give support to older persons. So if your family doesn't do it, then you are in default, and you can also be even charged. Even some people are even ashamed of telling you you are old. They want to say you have accumulated youth, or you are young at heart. We are advised not to be young at heart. Why should I be young at heart? I am old. If I'm old, I'm old. Do I look like a person who can't work? You see?
Definitely no.
I have gone to school. I have so many degrees. I'm so educated. I'm an author. I am many things. You can see the institutions I'm leading. And then when I apply for a job, somebody says, you are too old to work. This is total and complete discrimination.
Hi, my name is Lucy Mworia, the CEO, President, and the founder of Lucy Mworia Network, which is a new YouTube channel which is focusing mostly on aging, retiring population in this country, among others, also in the world. So today we'll be talking about those, and we have the opportunity of meeting with Mr. Kinuthia Wa Mwangi. Kinuthia Wa Mwangi is the Chairman Emeritus Transition Authority of Kenya, Chairman and Board of Trustee, Management University of Africa, Chairman on Board of Fellows, Kenya Institute of Management, Member of Council, Masai Mara University, Kikuyu Council of Elders Award, Jamba ya Rorere, State Honor Elder of the Burning Spear, author of the book Decentralization Dialogue in Africa, a precursor to Kenya's devolution, and also currently the ambassador of the older persons in Kenya today. So today we are very much privileged to have Mr. Kinuthia Wa Mwangi. Mr. Kinuthia Wa Mwangi, welcome to our channel.
Thank you, Lucy.
And now that you're ambassador of the older persons in Africa, which is our focus in this channel,
yes,
we'd like you to tell us about yourself as an aging person in this country, yes, and also about you being the ambassador of the older persons in Kenya.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you for having me here. I think, as you indicated, this is a new channel, and in my position as ambassador, I have really congratulated you in the past, and I'm congratulating you now.
Thank you
for this initiative, because it is just going to add the voice for older persons. We need more voices for older persons, and this is the one.
Thank you.
Well, as for me now, I think I'm in this show not because of all those other titles that you mentioned, but I'm here probably more as an ambassador for older persons in Kenya. As you realize, I interact a lot. First, as a constitutional and legal advisor to the Kikuyu Council of Elders. It means even before I was made an ambassador, I was still interacting with older persons. And in fact, I've traveled the journey with older persons from 2009, when I used to teach them the constitutional imperatives of devolution. So this is an area I have worked, and I was happy when the Helpage International identified me as the ambassador for older persons in Kenya, so that I can now articulate and advocate for older persons in all spheres of the Kenyan life. And I think in that capacity, I'm happily here.
Do you think there is a need to have the older people or the elderly and the retired people to be included in most decision making in our country?
It is not it's not a favor, Lucy. Let me say this, and I say very clearly, and because I know the government and the people and the wananchi will have a chance to listen to me through this channel. It's not a favor. It is a prerequisite of existence of a nation. And I thought that when I was coming here, I needed to tell Kenyans and the Kenya government, which the Kenya government knows very well, that both internationally, nationally and globally, the issue of older persons is on now a really well-tested issue, and it is now also has been been included in the Kenyan Constitution. Let me put it this way, if you allow me. What has happened from 1952, from 1948, coming forwards, all United Nations declarations, agreements, recommendations, protocols have addressed a lot about the need to look after older persons. But to us here in Kenya, what has been the most important is what we call the African Protocol on the African Charter on Human and People's Rights of Older Persons in Kenya. Because that's what they says the basis for African nations and states who proposed this protocol and said that it must be validated by all countries. And when you validate it and you accept it, then it means you are bound to do what that protocol says. And the African Charter or the protocol is also derived from other international declarations and international proclamations, but the Africans, it is cascaded down. So it was cascaded to Africa so that African nations can take it up, and then the African Union cascaded it to the national level. Ours was validated in February this year. And once you do that and you file it with the AU, it means now you are bound to make it part of the national law. And for the sake of citizens, because I would like this to be the beginning of a discussion, and particularly for those older people's organizations that are indulging in helping people, what are the obligations that arise from this protocol? Allow me just to mention them.
Yes.
Because they are very important. The protocol of African of the Charter on the Human Rights of Older Persons in Africa requires that African governments institute measures aimed at addressing the following needs. So to institute measures, it's not a persuasion, it is a prerequisite. One, to have measures to enable older persons to have access to regular incomes. This is because older people assume, they tell you that you are now eating what you accumulated when you are young. Who told you that people accumulated? How many people have accumulated? How many people are in steady incomes to be able to accumulate? So when you grow old, and the older person is defined by the Kenyan Constitution as any person who is 60 years and above. The African Protocol also defines that. So the government has a responsibility to enable those older persons to have access to regular incomes, access to economic opportunities. And that's number two. And especially now, what we as ambassador and as working with the older persons organizations, what we are doing now, we are saying the older persons must now be recognized as part of the marginalized four. The first is the youth, the women, and the people living with disability. So we are saying the fourth marginalized group is the older persons, and therefore they must give an access to government procurement opportunities. What we call AGPO, that percent. And the government reports institutions must give reports to show how they have made older persons access government procurement and tenders. The third thing is equitable distribution of resources. That means as you are distributing resources to orphans, to people with a disability, to work, you must also consider older persons as part of the marginalized. Then employment opportunities. And when we talk of employment opportunities, in this interview I will not say how old I am, but do I look like a person who can't work? You see?
Definitely no.
I have gone to school, I have so many degrees, I'm so educated, I'm an author, I am many things. You can see the institutions I'm leading. And then when I apply for a job, somebody says, you are too old to work. This is total and complete discrimination. If I can be a chairman of Management University of Africa, if I can manage to be a chairman of Board of Fellows of the Kenya Institute of Management, where you have very advanced people, why can't I be a permanent secretary? I'm not talking for myself. I'm talking people of like mind that are in this space but have no opportunities. So they must be given opportunity to work. This morning, I had actually a Board of Trustees meeting, and I was late because of traffic. And the guy, Professor Kibira, who is one of my Board of Trustees, was asked to chair the meeting, and I allowed him to continue to the end. The guy is around 80, but he was so good, so alert, so with it. I really was very impressed. So you can't say that an old person cannot work or cannot be productive. We are still very productive. We are aging productively. Then there is access to appropriate health. If you allow me, sooner or later I will tell you the kind of health challenges we are going. So it is paramount that the government gives appropriate health services to the older persons, access to basic social services such as food, water, clothing, and shelter. Don't wait until there is hunger in Kenya, and then you say that now we are taking food to Turkana. Older people are always very hungry, and some of them are living in the villages very destitute because they have no source of food. Some are in the slums and they have no houses. So government must think of a way they can give these people shelter of one kind or another. Even clothing. Some of them, they don't have money and they go in tatters.
But Wa Mwangi, don't I think that's why the government comes up like pesa ya wazee?
That is...
does it reach those people?
It's a raindrop. It's a drop in the ocean. That one is a drop in the ocean because these things I'm reading to you, they can show you that you don't need just handouts.
So according to you, those are handouts?
No. I'm saying it's a handout.
Formal.
It's a handout, surely, because you are given, not because you have worked for it. But you could lessen the burden of the government by doing some of these things I'm telling you up there, giving those people opportunities also to be in the income space. Then access to good care and support from the family, state, civil society, and private organization. Here, I want to make it very clear that the Constitution, this one has been imported into our Constitution, that it is the responsibility of the family and the state to take care and give support to older persons. So if your family doesn't do it, then you are in default, and you can also be even charged for neglect and for neglect of your parents.
What if the family is not able to? There are some of them who are not even able, they cannot even afford themselves.
Okay. That's okay. Let's negotiate and say you are not able. But if you are able, then you must. Then respect and recognition of the role and contribution that older persons make to society. That means you should not just dismiss older persons as people who have no say in decision making. I think that's what you had asked me.
Yes.
So when here, respect and recognition of the role and contribution that older persons make to society. That's what you asked me, decision making. So when we say participation and other things, older persons must say how they want to be administered. They must also give a direction in this country, the kind of country they want to be in.
Could that be the reason why, Wa Mwangi, you decided to get the Kikuyu Council of Elders to teach them during the Constitution reform?
Exactly.
Because you wanted them to understand.
209, I wanted them to understand where do they fit in, how do they interact with the county government, How do they go in? And I can tell you, and without twitching here, that we did very well with Governor Kinuthia of Nakuru. Governor Kinuthia is one of the people who supported them. Governor Mreithi has also done very well. Even Governor Kimemia did very well. And because this way we have taught them how to interact with their own governments at that level. So that's why I have been a teacher, and that's why I'm their constitutional and legal advisor. And I'm happy that they have taken it boldly, and they themselves now have learned how to interact. Then recognition of special needs of older persons in emergency situations. There are a lot of things that happen, like when there are floods, when there is a fire, when there is any type of an emergency or even attack by Al-Shabaab. You first of all look where are the older people. Look for them in the debris and take care of them first, because they are the most vulnerable. Then the right to life, dignity, and physical integrity. We have a right to live. We have a right to live in dignity and in physical integrity, so that I don't have to look like a madman because I don't have dresses, because I'm disabled. You know, some of the things I'm going to read about the sicknesses or the diseases of the people can bring you to a situation where you can't even lift a spoon to feed yourself, where you can't even be able to dress, where you can't be able even to bathe. So these are special needs, and they have to be looked after. Then ensure that the 1991 United Nations Principles of Independence, dignity, self-fulfillment, participation, and care of older persons are included in the national laws and are legally binding. So this is a protocol, and it has now come out with all these things. So all these things I'm talking about, they must be put in national laws, and they must be legally binding to the government, so that if you say you'll do, you do. Then, I'm just about to finish this part, elimination of discrimination against older persons. You see, people talk in very derogatory terms of older persons. And if you begin to say you are too old, you are too old to do this, you can't do this, that's discrimination. It must never be done. Even some people are even ashamed of telling you you are old. They want to say you have accumulated youth, or you are young at heart. We are advised not to be young at heart. Why should I be young at heart? I am old. If I'm old, I'm old. Let me live comfortably with age. And finally, access to justice, equal protection before the law. There was a lady in Machakos. I think her land was being taken. Is it near the airport? And that case went for years and years. And you know, it accumulated so much value. And people, it accumulated so much value that cartels and everybody else was on the side of taking it away from her. She didn't have legal representation. So it is very, very, very important that older persons are assisted to access to justice and equal protection before the law. You also know in Parklands, there was some family of Indian family. All the people of 80s, when their list got finished, people just came and took their plot, they demolished their houses and threw them into the gutter. This is not right. And the people must be protected, and government must give legal advice and access to justice pro bono to enable the rights of persons to be advanced. So, Lucy, those are the issues that African Protocol calls upon national governments to adopt and legislate and make them part and parcel of their laws and be bound by them. If they did that, then the older persons are safe.
Thank you, Kinuthia Wa Mwangi. Now that you are the ambassador of LPage in Africa, are actually in Kenya, centering in Kenya. You know, to most Kenyans out there, these are the protocols. They expected what is supposed to be done, like what is in the constitution. A lot of people know them, but do they really do it?
Yes.
Now, as an ambassador, can you tell Kenyans in a simple language, what do you exactly do? What do you push for in the government or as being as an ambassador of the elderly? Tell them, because if someone could be having a need, like you mentioned that lady in Machakos, the Indian family, are those issues, are those kind of people, could they come to you as the ambassador and give those, or where do they reach you, or how do you get to represent them? They want to know now our ambassador is here. How do you exactly, simple things, simple language. This is just a protocol like the constitution, and I agree with the protocol completely. But now tell Kenyans, yes, as the ambassador, what do you really push for them? What do you represent? How do they get you?
Essentially, I should be the African ambassador because there is no other ambassador in Africa. But I chose to concentrate in Kenya because that's the country I know best. And that's why I'm comfortable with the government. You know, in other governments, if you want to say some of the things, you'll be detained and jailed because they are not democratic. But I don't have an office where I ask people to come. Otherwise, I would not cope. So what I do, I talk at policy level. So definitely, I have managed from 2019 to be accepted fully and wholly by the Kenya government through the Department of Social Services and the State Department responsible for senior citizens. We participate a lot in meetings. I'm invited to participate in meetings. I give my views, and I'm always there to advise and to give an opinion on behalf of older persons.
And that's at the national level?
Yes, that's at national level. Then I have managed to bring together a secretariat of 5 people, which includes there's somebody called Tom, another one called Titus, and another one called Dr. Mwangi. These are people who, through Helpage, whom I represent as an ambassador, we were able to sit down with the older people's organizations. And therefore, what we have done in the past, when we want things done, we bring together older people's organizations. They can be 12, 13, 14, 15, 20, anybody, and we bring them together. Sometimes we have a 2-day workshop, and this secretariat takes up all those things, and we take those petitions to the government. Right now, we are pursuing. In fact, we finished the last time we met was last week, when we have finished our contribution to the government on a bill that we are proposing called the Older Persons of Kenya Act, so that they can incorporate all these things, and it can also incorporate all other things that have been suggested by individual bills that have been taken to Parliament, but they have never seen the light of day. But now we want the Kenya government, through this government, which we think is very responsive, to enact a law called Older Persons Act, and make sure that in that act there is something called the National Council for Older Persons. So that council is the one on an ongoing basis that now will be articulating, not the ambassador, but that council. It is the one that will reach out on programs and services, social services that are required for older persons. So we shall fight for that council. In the past, there is a Social Assistance Act, which suggested that there should be Social Assistance Authority. That authority has never seen the light of day. But now we may not need it. What we need is that council. And that's what we are fighting for, as older persons for older persons organizations. We call them OPOs. So I work through organizations.
So Kinuthia Wa Mwangi, you have said it's a responsibility of the families and the government to take care of the elderly.
Yes, that is the constitutional.
And most of these elderly people, they are not actually in Nairobi. They're in county governments out there. Do you think the county government has a responsibility when you're setting these policies, the policies should not just be set in Nairobi, in the national government. Most things have been devolved. These people are there. Don't you think it is important for you as an ambassador, for you to be felt more, to have some ambassadors in the counties, to represent their counties, in their government, to push the same policies you are pushing? Don't you think that it will go further to the people through that?
It is not necessary to have ambassadors as individuals. What we have proposed is to have this act, which I've told you about. This is the National Council for Older Persons. A National Council for Older Persons will articulate all these things, because now they will be in the law. It will be established by the same act. And it is for it to implement these things. So what we have proposed now in the act is that this council will exist at national and county levels. At the same time, the same act will be able to specify what is the role of the national government in respect of older persons, what is the role of county governments in respect of older persons, what is the role of the National Council for Older Persons, what is the role of the civil society, what is the role of the family. It will define all those roles.
Okay.
So as long as it is integrated in a law, and the roles have been defined, then you don't need even an ambassador, because everybody will be doing their thing, and he will have done his thing. He will have fulfilled his mission to get the law in place, so that the law has its own motion and it has its own life.
So, Kinuthia Wa Mwangi, because there are several issues, challenges that these elderly and the retired people are going through.
Yes.
Maybe before we finish up the show, because of time, we would like you to mention a few, just a few, because I know there are quite a number of them, and you're going to mention. I'd like you to mention challenges that the elderly people go through in Kenya that you think it is not clearly taken care of, maybe even by those protocols.
Besides those, I think the protocol kind of, if we had time, we can, I have tried to expound on each of them, because once you have taken care of incomes, care of food, shelter, and all those things, then probably you have overcome most of them. But the most important thing, where even families and individuals have not realized, is that there is what you call an aging process. And aging starts from birth to death. Now, within that, I wanted to alert you, Lucy, that people undergo different challenges as they become older and older. And if you allow me, and this will help Wananchi very much, if I can read very quickly the kind of diseases that crouch on you, not because they were caused by some external viruses, but they come naturally because of aging. They are called aging diseases. And these aging diseases, I can read them very quickly so that Wananchi can begin to think of them. We have the diabetes, we have arthritis, kidney and bladder problem, dementia, Parkinson's disease, glaucoma, cataracts, lung diseases, osteoporosis, which comes from obesity, muscular degeneration, enlarged prostate, Alzheimer's disease, depression, and Lucy, now you know Kenya, the mental issues is big. It's a big issue. People are now mad. You know, they're running mad. They're becoming mental.
No money, no food, no nothing,
yes.
Drought.
So depression is a big issue. Cardiovascular diseases, hearing and vision loss. You see, somebody like my mother was very strong. She could see, hear everything, and suddenly she's telling you, Diraigua, I can't hear. Dirona, I can't see. You know, and it has just come naturally. I've observed her many years. I'm surprised the strong woman I used to see is so weak that she has even gone into wheelchair.
But does she lose value because of that?
Exactly, she doesn't lose. So we have falls. Old people are given to falling down, obesity, mobility, disability. Where you try to walk, and you find the people walking in dizziness, vestibular functions, scopenia, Schizophrenia is one of the most serious issues here because schizophrenia, because it's loss of skeletal muscles. You know, somebody who was very fat, they become very thin, and you see these wrinkles and legs, they have no muscles. Then the hypertension, disability in activities of daily living. For instance, they cannot dress, they cannot bathe, difficulty in using toilet, frailty, weaknesses, slowness and exhaustion, and weight loss, continence, urinary incontinence, especially in women, in overactive bladder, cognitive aging. You have seen older people, they have short-term memories. They can't find words. They want to pronounce a word or a name. I want to say Lucy Mworia. And I say, what is your name? You see, I can't even remember that you are interviewing me and you are Lucy Mworia.
Then we start saying you are crazy.
Then you say I'm crazy. Finding difficulty and slower processing of speed. So they become slow, and they are not able to dare to be themselves. And then people begin to judge them. You see? They begin to put all kinds of judgments, all kinds of words, instead of helping them. That's why we are saying now the government must provide age-related services. For example, why should an old person of 80 years share a ward bed with a 20-year-old boy, or a 80-year-old lady with a 20-year-old lady sharing a bed, leave alone a ward?
In the hospital.
In the hospital. So we are saying from now onwards, the government and the county governments must provide what you call geriatric wards. If you go to a hospital, it is a hospital for old ladies only.
Men.
Old men only. That's a geriatric. We must get government to train geriatric doctors, people who have studied medicine that address the old. We must get gerontologists, people who have trained to understand the social interaction with the old persons, caregivers and all that. We must have training for caregivers and all that.
Viewers, that Kinuthia chairman emeritus, Kinuthia Wa Mwangi, who is giving us all the down challenges and problems and diseases that the elderly go through in Kenya. Wa Mwangi says that marginalized should be another one on the list of the youth, PWD, and the women at the AGPO, because it is another category of people who are marginalized. Because when you grow older, it does not mean that you stop eating. You are still there, your life continues. Yes. And aging starts from the day you were born. Aging is inevitable, and we will continue. Thank you very much, Kinuthia Wa Mwangi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Unless you have the last word as we close. Yes. You tell the viewers, the elderly and the youth at the same time, the youth who think the elderly have no place in Kenya.
First of all, I will address the youth and tell them we must create what we call intergenerational interaction. I have a lot of young people who are now interacting with us and with this subject matter. Some of them even have studied gerontology, the study of aging. And I think the more you do that, the more it will help, because you're also preparing for yourself. The moment you interact at youth, you'll know what will find you ahead, and you begin to prepare for it. You'll also be empathetic to those who are in that situation. Then the family. The family must take responsibility for their old. Even if they are not financially enabled, they are physically enabled. Like we have said, people have become very weak. They are sick. See how you can bathe your mother, your father, your whatever. See that they are well looked after. Dress them well. Talk to them nicely. Encourage them. And then the state, it must put into practice, though it must put into place those structures and measures that go to address old aging in Kenya.
Thank you very much, Kinuthia Wa Mwangi, Chairman Emeritus Transitional Authority of Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And viewers, tune in, sign in, like it, give your comments. The channel is for us. It's for the elderly, it's for the youth, it's for women, it's for PWD, it's for everybody. Let us be candid. This is our country. Thank you.